Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Todd Williams, and I'm the Executive Director of the Commit Partnership. And I want to thank everyone for coming today and for braving the roads and having the desire to come and hear us talk about something that I think is one of the most important, if not the most important, issue facing our community, and that's the state of education in our region. There's a lot of familiar faces that I'm seeing out here today who are already part of the partnership, and I want to thank you for coming and for doing the work that you've been engaged in for the last 3 years. And I also want to thank the many new faces who are coming to learn more, ask questions, trying to understand how you might engage as well, because we need everybody in this effort. We're going to have a crisp agenda today. We're going to talk about a fair amount of data, but importantly, it's important that we understand that we want to look behind the numbers, because while data is important to help guide and create a sense of urgency where it's necessary, it's also important, that we understand and be mindful of a few key points. And that is, behind every number is a child. And that child has a story, and that child has challenges, and that child is obviously looking to us as the adults in our community to basically represent their best interest and to do everything we can and align all of our resources to make sure that they have the absolute best chance to maximize their potential in life. Secondly, we believe it's really important that data be used to illuminate and not to punish. All the data that we talk about in our work is talking about the collective community. It's not about one school or one teacher or one school district. It's about where we are as a region and how we're working to solve this problem we have in front of us. And finally, we're not here to admire the size of the problem. We know we got a problem. That's why we're here, and that's why we're engaged. It's really to talk about and use the data to create a sense of urgency for why we need to do something, what the numbers are telling us, but equally important to talk and help people understand there are many, many positive stories out there, great achievement occurring in all sorts of classrooms and schools today. And if we just figure out a way how to take those best practices that are happening in those schools and we scale them, and we bring the abundant resources that we have in the community that is known as Dallas and Dallas County, it's amazing what can happen and the kickstart and how it will accelerate where we are as a community. I want to talk about a little bit about the history. We started this effort about 3 years ago, and we basically started the first 18 months kind of forming the partnership. We met with people, we asked, and we tried to decide two real key questions. What was going to be our scope? And in all of our bravado, we decided, why not Dallas County? It's big. It's 1,000 square miles. It's 32 cities. It's 14 traditional ISDs. It's 36 charter networks. It's 50,000 students in private schools. And then when you go into higher ed, we've got roughly 200,000 kids in 14 four-year colleges and our 7 county community colleges. So we decided, right or wrong, that we're going to take on Dallas County. Secondly, we decided what we were going to measure. And we decided to measure these 11 indicators that you'll see on the screen. This is our pipeline. We didn't want the measurements to be too many, but we wanted them to be important. So we start with pre-K enrollment. We move on to kindergarten readiness, on to third grade literacy, fourth grade math, and then ultimately completing with number of students who are graduating from high school and ultimately who are going on and getting some type of degree post-secondary. Can be a 2-year degree, can be a 4-year degree, can be a technical certificate, but that's what we're doing. And remember that our true north here is that we need roughly 65% of our students to be achieving some type of post-secondary degree to compete in a 2020 job labor market. And today, roughly 34% of our adults reflect that type of accreditation. So the pipeline behind us is critically important. So let's talk about our enrollment and talk about the size of what we're dealing with here. We have roughly 540,000 kids in K through 12 in Dallas County. Roughly 50,000 of those are in private schools, and 91% of the remainder obviously is in public schools. Roughly 90% in traditional ISDs and 10% in charters. The key thing here is we started this work, when we did this, started this partnership effort, we started with a few people. We started with roughly 40 partners our first year, and then grew to another 80 partners on top of that. and we're now up to about 160 partners who are doing this work today. Many of you are represented in this audience today. It's a testament that what we're working on today requires the work of a lot of people with a lot of expertise, foundations, numerous school districts, nonprofits, foundations, etc. Lots of people are involved in this work, and it's a tribute. We today effectively are either one of, if not the largest educational collective impact organization in the country, and that's a testament to the foundations who were critically investing in this work and to the people of the organizations who were focused here. Again, I think it's important to understand why we are significant. 1 in 10 kids in this country is educated in Texas, and 1 in 10 kids in Texas is educated in Dallas County. So what happens here matters. We spend roughly $5 billion in our public K-12 system in Dallas County and roughly $50 billion statewide. And again, 711 schools that do this work each and every day in the public school space. So let's talk about what's really important in terms of where we started, because again, it's important to understand when we started this work 2 years ago and had a baseline. These blue numbers indicate where we were 2 years ago. So again, starting with kindergarten enrollment on the far left and the number of students who are graduating with some type of post-secondary completion on the right. 2 years later, you can see the progress that we've made here. Roughly 1 to 6%, depending on each of these indicators. Most success within 4th grade math and 8th grade science, which is important because obviously we want to have a STEM economy here and have kids prepared to succeed in STEM. But we've got a lot of work to do, obviously, because you can see here we start with 83% of our kids who are eligible for pre-K actually accessing. Roughly half of our kids are ready 1 year later. Roughly 36% of our kids can answer 70% of the questions right on their 3rd grade literacy test. And because of that lack of a true 100% universal solid foundation in kindergarten readiness and 3rd grade literacy, subsequent academic achievement is not able to keep up, which is why only 14% of our kids today are graduating with a college-ready SAT or ACT score, and yet we're graduating roughly, as you can see, 84% of our kids. So that college readiness is a critical factor, and we'll talk about that in a second. Again, it's important also to understand where we stand relative versus the state of Texas. And these are our numbers in terms of where we are today, and then the red indicates our gaps with the state, how far behind we are. It's important to know that while we bemoan the fact that we are only 14% of our kids are graduating college ready, the state of Texas is only 16%. So what the challenges that we're facing here are not just Dallas County focused. It's a really, truly a statewide issue. The good news is that over the last 4 years, we've grown the number of kids who are actually graduating from high school significantly. 3,700 more kids graduated in 2013 than they did 4 years earlier, which was a 16% increase. But if we look at those graduates and say how many of them were college ready, you can see that actually the number of college ready graduates dropped by 50 kids. So a 1% decline. So again, college readiness is a critical issue that we continue to struggle with. The good news is that we are increasing our completion rates in higher ed, both in the community college system as well as in the four-year schools. And over the last 4 years, we've increased the number of kids who are graduating with some type of post-secondary degree by 26%. It's a great tribute to the fact that we have more enrollment and people coming to this region to attend a higher ed institution, but it's also a tribute to our higher ed partners who are slowly but steadily increasing their retention rates as well as their 3-year and their 6-year college completion rates. And then I want to finish and talk about what we refer to as our hope charts, where we have outlier performance. This is a lot of campuses here. This is our 3rd grade math in Dallas County, 413 elementary schools. And the bottom axis is effectively the percentage of kids who qualify for free and reduced lunch. The left axis is the percent achievement on their 3rd grade math STAR exam, which again is on a college-ready pace. And you see tremendous dispersion, which only increases as the schools get increasingly poor as you move to the far right. But let me tell you why we call this our hope chart. If you look at the schools that are effectively between 0 and 10% poor, relatively low poverty, even when the schools that have relatively little poverty, you see tremendous difference in terms of academic achievement. You see upwards of a 50-point gap, 52-point gap in those schools. If you go all the way to the far right hand of the chart and you focus on schools that are 90 to 100% poor, again, you see also tremendous dispersion, upwards of 50 to 60 points in that area as well, 64. And so then if you look at all the schools along that continuum, you'll see anywhere from 40 to 70 point gaps. And all I'm trying to make a point with this chart is that poverty is not destiny. There are examples in all of these schools at the top end of this range that are achieving significant for their kids. And I could look at third grade reading, I could look at fourth grade math, I could look at eighth grade science or algebra. You will see charts that look exactly like this. And the question for all of us is, what are those schools at the top doing? Go and study those. Figure out their best practices and take those practices and the abundant resources we have within our community and go to the schools that are most challenged and figure out how can we solve that issue, because people are already solving it today. And that is what gives us the most hope in the work that we do every day. And as you can see here in this chart, we've even got schools that are at the very high end of the poverty scale that are outperforming schools on the lower end of the poverty scale. So again, tremendous hope in terms of what these numbers are telling us every day. I'd like to then turn the microphone over to someone I have tremendous respect for. Larry James is the CEO of City Square. He was also the chair of the Mayor's Task Force on Poverty, and he's going to talk specifically about that issue, which obviously is something that we cannot ignore, but we can certainly overcome. Thank you.